What's going on, duelists? It's your boy Nick, bringing you today combos and test hands for my updated Mutant Goatee deck profile for the post-Phantom Nightmare format. For those of you new to the channel, welcome. My name is Nick. We do Yu-Gi-Oh! Content mainly focused around rogue and casual decks alike. If that's the kind of Yu-Gi-Oh! That you're interested in, then I highly encourage for you to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any more of my uploads. We are currently working our way to 1,500 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. So Mutant Goatee is a deck that my channel is pretty well known for, and it holds a special place in my heart, honestly, because the deck is just so fun to play, and I've also topped the most locals with this particular deck. Obviously the old version, not the updated version. I haven't taken it to locals just yet, but the deck is just so much fun to pilot. The Goatees and the Mutants work so well together, so when I found out that the Goatees were getting brand new support in Phantom Nightmare, I knew it was time to get back to the drawing board and start to cook up some spice. So I have here before you today, I'm going to give you guys two separate combos, and then we're going to do some test hands, and then we're just going to talk a little bit about the deck list and some of my thought process behind some of the card choices and text that I'm running, and just kind of go from there and see what we can come up with. If you haven't checked out the deck profile already, I'm going to leave it linked in the description down below. But with that being said, intro's done out of the way. We're diving headfirst into the combos. So I want to talk actually about the new Earthbound package that we're running in this particular deck, because I think it's something that a lot of people are still unaware of. So when it comes to Goatee specifically, we know that this card here, Post, is basically the bread and butter. It's pretty much the deck's starter, which is odd to say because it's obviously a level 6 synchro. How can it be a starter? But it, for all intents and purposes, it is. This card on Synchro Summon banishes a level 6 or lower fish monster from deck, and this is what jumpstarts all of your lines. Very powerful card. So the question I had was, how can I get there? What package or engine can I play that gets me to a level 6 synchro? Now, generally, obviously, we're playing mutants. You know, a lot of the mutants are psychic type, like ST46 and MO5 that we usually start with. So these can generally be special summoned via emergency teleport, which we obviously max out at 3, and it can also be played special summoned with the mutant field spell, Mutant Evolution Lab, whether they're from your hand or banished, which we also play 3 copies of the field spell as well. So we have a lot of ways to get Goatees on the board without, or I'm sorry, to get mutants on the board, excuse me, without burning your normal summon. And obviously mutants, they don't have any tuners, and there's really no way for the mutants to synchro into an Post. So this is when I got to cooking, and I wanted to figure out how can I get to this card through the use of a normal summon, since the deck usually doesn't, we don't waste our normal summon on Goatees, and we usually don't burn it on the mutants either, since we have so many ways to special the mutants through other means. So this is when I really started to think about, you know, I was looking at other deck lists. I've seen a lot of decks play the Super Heavy Samurai package. I've seen decks play the Supe Dustwalker line. I've also seen decks play runic cards to facilitate getting to Arion Posts through the use of the non-tuners. And I'm going to be honest, a lot of those ways seem very overly complex. The Super Heavy Samurai package, while it's amazing, yes, I dislike the fact that it's basically dead the moment you put a spell trap engrave. So when you're playing second and you want to be able to use like board breakers like, you know, Dark Ruler evenly, you can't. Because the Super Heavies, you need to commit to that first. And then the problem is that going second, they just play into hand traps. Going first, it's not that much of an issue, but still, it does create problems later, you know, post turn 1. If you do want to use the Super Heavy Samurai stuff later and you have spells and traps engraved, you can't. So I scratched that off the table immediately. Up next was the Supe package, which a lot of people play 3 Supe Dustwalker plus 1 copy of Supe. The problem I have with that package is that the Supe Dustwalker requires a discard, which generally there's not many things in Mutant Goatee that you want to be discarding to begin with. We don't really have that much graveyard stuff going on outside of like fringe cases with like Shift specifically, Fairy of the Goatee. But again, generally you don't want to be discarding stuff, at least in this particular version of the deck. And also I dislike the fact that the Supe line completely dies to Ash Blossom. They can Ash the effect in hand, so not only do you discard a card for no value, you also don't even special the level 5 Dustwalker from the hand, which means you're just kind of bricked at that point, and now your 5-card hand turns into a 3-card hand effectively, because the level 5 is now just a Garnet. So I didn't really like that. Also, plus you play the Garnet in the deck, which is Supe himself. Obviously, I'm aware that the Duskwalker can special Supe from hand or deck, but generally you want to be specialing it from deck. You don't want to have to draw it, and it just creates random issues with consistency. So then that rules that out. And then obviously Runics, well, when you play Runics, you want to be maxing out on a lot of the cards, and this is a mutant list, so I couldn't find space for the Runic stuff. So enter the Earthbound cards. Right here we have Prisoner Stonesweeper and Prisoner Groundkeeper, two brand new cards out of Maze of Millennia. Now, Groundkeeper, upon normal or special, will allow you to special summon a level 5 or lower Earthbound monster from your deck or graveyard, which this is your target for that. So theoretically, you would think that you want to open this card and you play 3-in-1 ratio, perhaps. Incorrect. In this particular list, we're actually playing 3 of the Groundkeeper, but we're also playing 3 Stonesweeper. Now, why is that? Well, if you read this card, it states that if a card is in a field zone, you can special this card from your hand. Note that we max out on a playset of the Mutant Field Spell, so as long as we have the Mutant Field Spell on the board, this card just becomes a free extender, a level 5 body that we can tune with and sync into, you know, odd level synchros, which is very strong. But if that wasn't crazy enough, if you keep reading, it states that you can discard this card from your hand to then add a level 3 or lower Fiend Tuner from deck to hand. That's this card, which means the Garnet, or the card you're summoning off of the starter, well, this card can pitch itself to search the starter. So since we're on a 3-in-3 ratio, we're effectively playing 3 copies of Groundkeeper, which makes this a very consistent package to get to a level 6 synchro play on your turn. Because that's like those other stuff that I consider like Lifeless Leaf Fish, you know, that on summon sends a fish from deck to grave. Usually you dump Shift, and then you can use Shift's effect targeting Leaf Fish to increase its attack by 500, thus banishing the Shift in the process. While that does work, the problem is that it doesn't get you to Aerial Post on your turn. It only does so on the opponent's turn, which is a little too slow for my liking. I want it to be a bit more proactive. So this is the normal summon package we're choosing to play in this deck, and I'm here to show you guys why it's so cracked. So it doesn't really matter what we start with. We can start with either Stonesweeper or Groundkeeper on this particular combo, but we're going to have a Groundkeeper or Stonesweeper. It doesn't really matter. They're both interchangeable. And we're going to have that plus an e-tele. And I want to show you guys what you can do with just those 2 cards. Something else that I also want to bring up with Groundkeeper is, yes, I'm aware that it also loses to cards like Ash, Imperm, Veiler, the same things a lot of the other engines you would play to get to a level 6 synchro would lose to, but the benefit of this card is that it's still a tuner on the field, nor does it sack itself for cost for any reason, so you still keep a body on board, which as long as you have other extenders, you can still use this card as, you know, material to make other synchro plays with, which is really what I like and enjoy about it most. Plus just all the versatility you have, since you are able to grab the Stonesweeper from not only the deck but also the graveyard is huge in my opinion. So with that being said, this will be a 2-card combo starting with e-tele and the Groundkeeper. So obviously, draw phase, we're going to go Emergency Teleport, summoning a level 3 or lower Psychic from the deck, which will be a copy of our Mutant MO5. On summon, we'll activate MO5's effect to search for a mutant monster. Now in this case, since we want to burn the normal summon on Groundkeeper, it's not smart to search for something like an ST46 unless we also had the mutant field spell in hand to be able to special it from hand. In this case, we're only playing with a 2-card combo, so we're not going to search for ST46 in this case. We're going to grab Mutant instead, because he can actually special himself from the hand as long as we control a mutant card. So now we'll go standby phase, main phase. Now because we control a mutant card, we can special summon our mutant from our hand for free. And now at this point, what we can do is we can actually use its effect, tributing itself, and then banishing from our deck a mutant card to then summon the appropriate boss monster based on the type of card banished. So in this particular instance, we are going to go ahead and banish a trap from our deck to go ahead and facilitate the special summon of our Mutant Arsenal, which is a monster banish at quick effect speed during the opponent's turn, which is very strong on a 3k beater. Also can't be targeted by trap effects, so no imperm in the draw or standby phase on the opponent's turn to this guy, which is really convenient. So now we already got one of our bosses on board. Note that we do take damage from Mutant's effect, so yes, we're down 3k life because we burn ourselves for the attack of the monster summon, but that's really a non-issue here. Now we're going to normal summon our Prisoner Groundkeeper, activate the effect to special summon a level 5 or lower Earthbound from the deck or grave. In this case, we're going to go ahead and special from deck. Keep in mind, this is just a 2-card combo, starting with Groundkeeper and an Emergency Teleport. So now we're going to grab our Stonesweeper, and now this gives us access into our level 6 synchro play using the Stonesweeper and the Groundkeeper, or if we wanted to, we could even go into a level 8 synchro play, also using the MO5 that we summoned off the e-tele. So it's a matter of preference. It really just depends on what you need to get access to at any given moment. You have a lot of flexibility with the deck. So for this particular line, we're just going to go ahead and sync for the level 6 here, which will be our copy of Aerion Post. and then on Synchro Summon, he will go ahead and banish a level 6 or lower fish from our deck. Now in this case, because we don't have any other extenders, given that, we're just playing a 2-card hand, we're just going to go ahead and banish our copy of Schiff, Fairy of the Goatee from deck. And then what we're going to do here is we're actually going to use MO5 effect on field, tributing itself, and then banishing the Arion Post we control to go ahead and special summon a Mutant Boss from deck, which in this case will be a copy of Mutant Beast, giving us access to our Spell Negate, which is very strong. So now we got a Monster Banish and a Spell Negate, and then we're basically just going to pass our turn here. Obviously, on the standby, you lose a bit of value on the Arion Post, but that's okay. On the standby of the next turn, Schiff will special itself back from the Banish Zone since it was banished last turn. And now this is pretty much our end board off of a 2-card line, which was just the Earthbound Groundkeeper and an Emergency Teleport. We effectively have a Monster Target Banish on the opponent's turn at quick effect. We have a Spell Negate and Banish at quick effect on the opponent's turn. And we also have the Schiff, Fairy of the Goatee, to quick sync on the opponent's turn if need be, into our copy of Goatee of the Deep Beyond to just completely banish the entire field. So, that's a Spell Negate, a Monster Banish, and a full field banish off of just 2 cards, which, in my opinion, is quite a bit of value for, given the combo line that we went down. So that's why I like this deck. The mutants are just very difficult to deal with. And then, like I said, the fact that at any moment you can just threaten an entire field banish is just huge. So let's rewind this a bit. We're going to go back to another 2-card combo, still utilizing the Earthbound cards, because I want you guys to see how crazy they actually are. Again, you can usually interchange Stone Sweeper and Groundkeeper. It doesn't matter which one you draw, because one searches the other anyway. So, like I said, they're one and the same. But in this case, we're just going to have the Groundkeeper in hand, and then we're going to start off with a Goatee. So what can you do if you have a Groundkeeper and a Goatee, for example, in this case being Paces? Paces or Schiff would work the best for this combo. And since we play 2 and 2 of each, you have like 4 copies total of the card you're trying to find. So with this combo, we're just going to do Groundkeeper and Paces. So we're going to go ahead and normal summon our Groundkeeper, activate its effect to go ahead and special summon Stone Sweeper from our deck or graveyard. Now we're going to go ahead and Synchro Summon into our copy of the Arion Post, Serpent of the Goatee, activate its effect upon Synchro Summon to banish a level 6 or lower fish from our deck. Now this is where the new card comes into play. Sykes, Moonlight of the Goatee. This card is basically a custom card for the archetype, and you're going to see why. We're going to banish the Sykes directly from our deck with the effect of Arion Post, and because the Sykes was banished, he will allow us to banish a fish monster from our hand, graveyard, or face-up field, except a copy of himself. So we're going to use Sykes effect here in the Banish Zone, banishing the Paces from our hand to then allow us to special summon the Sykes. And then upon normal or special summon, the Sykes will activate its effect to search us any fish monster from the deck to our hand. And then if we do that, we can banish a fish from our hand or our face-up field. Excuse me. Got a little bit lost there. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and grab ourselves a copy of Schiff, Fairy of the Goatee. And then because at resolution we have to banish a fish from our field or hand, we're going to actually banish the same Schiff that we just searched. And then we're actually just going to go ahead and pass our turn here. But because both Schiff and Paces were banished last turn, they are going to special summon themselves on the next standby phase. Now again, we just started with the Groundkeeper and Paces. The same can be said for Groundkeeper and Schiff. Just the only difference is that instead of searching the Schiff and banishing it off Moonlight, you would search the Paces and banish it off Moonlight. But it effectively gives you the same end result. And now we have 2 different ways to quick sync on the opponent's turn, as opposed to just one, like in the first combo. But all of this is effectively done off of the back of these 2 cards, which is, like I said, makes them extremely strong. So for simple 2-card combos, you end up getting a lot of free disruption and value that you otherwise wouldn't have with any of the other packages, that you could be playing to get to the same line. So that's why I like the Earthbound so much. Like I said, it all works out extremely well in this particular list. I did do a lot of testing with this deck, and for right now, I'm pretty pleased with its performance. I do feel like there is some optimization that can be done with the deck specifically. For example, I'm running like every single mutant boss. I'm playing 2 Beast, 1 Mist, 1 Arsenal. I think Mist, there's an argument, at least for this format, to go ahead and be able to sideboard the Mist and cut it out of the main deck. Not only, cutting a Garnet from the main, but also slimming down the deck list. which obviously is very relevant. So I'll have to do more testing with the deck before I fully commit, but for the time being, this list is pretty solid. We're going to go ahead and now that we've got the combos out of the way, we're just going to pile shuffle really quickly. And we are going to do a test hand. That way you guys can see what this deck does on the draw. Like I said, if you're watching this video and you made it this far and you're not subscribed yet, subscribe. All it does is benefit the channel. And like I said, I'm going to continue bringing you guys really amazing and unique content that you don't want to miss. So make sure that you're subscribed, like the video, comment down below on what you guys think of Mutant Goatee as a deck. You know, tell me what your favorite Goatee card is, what your favorite Mutant card is. I want to hear your guys' thoughts, honestly. I think this deck is a lot of fun to play, and with a good pilot behind it, can definitely see a lot of success, especially in a locals or even a regional setting. So now that I shuffled, we're going to go ahead and cut, and we're going to play this test hand like we're going first. So we have Mutant MO5, Infinite Impermanence, Mutant Evolution Lab, Shift Fairy of the Goatee, and a Droll and Lockbird. So this is an amazing hand, honestly. Even if we were going second, I mean, we opened Imperm plus Droll, which usually is enough to cook most decks in any given scenario, but because we're playing this out like we're going first, what I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to activate Evolution Lab. Actually, no, there's a couple ways I can do this, to be honest. Let me think about this. Let's go ahead and normal summon our MO5 and activate its effect upon its summon to search for a mutant monster. In this particular case, we're going to go ahead and grab ourselves a copy of Mutant, and you guys are going to see a pretty neat combo we can pull off with this. So now that we control a mutant or a mutant monster, we can go ahead and activate the effect of our mutant to special it from hand. Now we're going to use mutant's effect here to go ahead and banish a mutant card from our deck to special summon the appropriate boss monster, which we're going to go ahead and banish from our deck a copy of ST46, and that will allow us to special summon a copy of Mutant Beast to our field. So now we have our spell negate set up, and then obviously we will take damage here equal to Beast's attack. But we're not done here, obviously. Now we're going to go Evolution Lab, activating it, and upon activation, this allows us to special summon one of our Mutant level 4 lowers that is either banished or in our hand. So we're going to grab our banished ST46, go ahead and special summon that to our field, and then activate its effect to search for a spell trap upon summon, which in this case we can actually use to go ahead and grab ourselves a copy of Mutant Cry, giving us even more disruption for the opponent's turn, which is obviously very strong. And now at this point, what we're going to do here is we can go MO5 effect, we can tribute itself, and then banish from our hand a monster, which in this case will be the Shift, and that will allow us to special summon a mutant boss from our deck based on the type of card banished, which in this case will actually be our second mutant beast. Now, obviously, I'm well aware that, you know, beast is a hard once, but you'll see why we're doing this momentarily. So at this point, we can do a couple things, since if we think we're going to go ahead and threaten a Goatee of the Deep Beyond in the opponent's turn, there is good argument to just hold the Mutant Cry in our hand. That way, after we banish the field on the subsequent turn, we can set this and then have it as further disruption. Because my issue is that if we set it now and then we threaten a Deep Beyond play, we risk losing out on the disruption we get through Mutant Cry. Or even if we activate Cry, we summon Synthesis, we get a pop. But then when we do establish our Deep Beyond, we end up banishing our own Synthesis anyway. So there is argument to hold this in hand for this particular line. But what we can do here is we can effectively just go ahead and pass turn. Even hold the Imperm in our hand for the same reason, because if we do Deep Beyond the board, there's no cards on field anyway, so we can still activate Imperm from hand regardless. So we would basically pass turn here, or, well, let me think about this. We don't necessarily have to pass turn, actually. What we can do here is we can go ST46 effect, tributing itself, and then banishing the spell to go ahead and summon out a Mutant Mist. But again, that's assuming you're main decking Mist. In this case, I am, but I know a lot of decks choose not to run it. And to be honest, I have considered strictly siding Mist, especially for this format, but I haven't really committed to that decision just yet. So now at least we can set up a Mist as well, just in case the opponent happens to have an Imperm off the top, for example. We can still chain Mist and at least get some value off of that for free. But yeah, we could pass turn here, and then at this point on the next standby, Shift will come back to the field, And now we have a couple of things here. We have obviously a spell negate, and then if the opponent activates a trap card, we get to draw 2 cards. Also, we have an imperm plus a draw in hand, and we can threaten a Deep Beyond play at any point during the opponent's turn, which I think is absolutely insane. Just having being able to threaten the board like that is just super, super crazy. But at any given moment, if we want to go like Mutant Beast, for example, you know, to negate and banish a spell, we can go Beast and then, you know, banishing the Mutant on our field for cost to then negate and banish that spell card, rendering this Beast, you know, obsolete, which at that point we could go ahead and use the Shift at any given moment, quick sync it off, and then, you know, like I said, threaten the Deep Beyond play on the opponent's turn, basically banishing everything on the field, including itself. At which point we still have an impermanent hand, which we could play from our hand now since the whole board is banished, and we still had a draw and Lockbird. And then this is what I was saying, that on the subsequent turn, you know, once this guy comes back during the standby phase, we have a super big beat stick, but now we can also just set our Mutant Cry, and then once we pass turn again, because I'm assuming the opponent's not going to be dead off the one shot, we can actually go into Cry. That allows us to summon out a Synthesis by shuffling back our banished mutants from the banish zone back into the deck, pretty much restarting us from scratch, while also giving us not only an additional disruption, but also just another body to keep putting more pressure on the opponent. So that's pretty much going to be it for our test hand, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the combos and you learned a little bit about some of the reasonings behind the cards I'm running. But with that being said, this is Nick hitting that end phase. Like I said, like, subscribe, and stay tuned so you don't miss out on any more unique Yu-Gi-Oh content. This is your boy Nick hitting that end phase. Peace.